Hello guys, how you doing? Luna here with a new video for the channel. Today we have yet another review. American singer, songwriter, producer as well. You know, as we've seen from the TikToks, Charlie Puth has released his third studio album, his self-titled studio album, Charlie. The album before this one is his 2018 Voicenotes, and I'm just gonna say I don't think Charlie put enough effort in that album. Thank you. In all seriousness though, I was quite excited for this album. It's not that I'm a fan of Charlie Puth. Actually, he has released a few songs that I think that are really annoying. The main reason for my excitement was the TikToks that this man has been releasing. Basically, he was doing a bunch of TikToks where he grabbed like the most random sound, like is it a light switch? Is it a door?
This is a door, and listen to the noise it makes when I move it.
Here's the door noise slowed down. Those notes are... What if we made it sound a little higher? And a bass that goes... Boom, ba-dum-dum. And a drum that goes...
And he basically made a song out of it, and it seemed like a really interesting concept and a really interesting way of, you know, a really interesting creative process for the album. So I kind of restrained myself from listening to any of the singles released. The only one I've heard was Light Switch, and it's because of the meme more than anything. And you know, one feeling I get from this album is that he had way more creative freedom at the time of writing these tracks. It was pretty much obvious that he was also really involved in the production of this album. And the result is an album that in my opinion is the best thing that he has released. Honestly, it's way better than his debut album and that Voicenotes album in 2018, which was not good at all. This, you know, sounds like he actually was trying to put together all of these songs to make, you know, a whole album experience instead of releasing an album that whose only goal is to get as many #1 or top 10s as possible. But I don't really think that he had enough ideas to make this thing happen, because it is true that many of the songs have the same formula over and over again, especially in terms of production, because the melodies are quite nice, you know, the songs are catchy, the drum patterns are good, but the overall song just look too much like each other, and rather than making the album cohesive, it makes it a bit boring and generic, and that results in me not having much to say about this album because the lyrics are not really a highlight here. I don't really know if I want like deep, profound lyrics, but what I don't want is typical generic pop song heartbreak lyrics that I just don't, you know, they don't resonate with me. Maybe with a teenage girl, this may sound deep or relatable, but to me, it says nothing. Most of the times, I'm just, you know, focused on the melody, because if I focus on the lyrics, I might as well fall asleep. Especially on the first track of this album, that's hilarious. You know, the lyrical concept of that song, it's like the whole song is a bit haha to you because you didn't want me before. Now you want me now that I'm, you know, the greatest version of myself. Then that's hilarious. I'm not gonna get back with you. Like, who are you, Taylor Swift? And you know, even though I'm talking about a specific song here, that applies to almost every single song on this album. You know, the writing on this thing wasn't one of Charlie's best. But you know, in terms of melody and overall production, I think that this album is actually really good. Catchy, everything that you expect from a pop mainstream album. I believe that the track Tears on My Piano is really good. Also the track Light Switch, which is one of my favorite singles from this year. That song is really good. I also like the opening track, even though the lyrical concept is a bit dead, as I said before. I do like the track. It's catchy. You know, it fulfills its purpose to entertain you for like 2 or 3 minutes. But that's pretty much the only thing that you can say about this album. I usually listen to albums like 4 or 5 times before I do a review. I would like to, you know, I like to go deep into, you know, and investigate everything that was in the background of this album, every little sound. I like to pay attention to it. So if I have something interesting to add, then I'll just put it on the video. But in this one, even though I've heard it again like 4 or 5 times before doing this review, I don't really have much to say about it. rather than, it's just catchy songs, one catchy song after another. I do have a few bad things to say about this album, the things that keep it from being too good, and it's the fact that, the vocal processing in this album is horrible. It's incredible the amount of autotune in his voice. When he goes a little bit too loud, you couldn't tell the difference between him, Justin Bieber, and even someone like Chris Brown, bro. Aren't you, the perfect pitch guy where you have a bunch of TikToks going like,
that's a C sharp.
why do you need so much autotune? It makes you sound so less human. The emotional tracks, for example, like when you're sad, I'm sad, or when I'm sad, you're sad. I don't even, let me check. When you're sad, I'm sad. That's it. Sorry. That song, which is supposed to be emotional and it's supposed to, communicate feelings. How the fuck am I going to communicate feelings if you're sounding like R2-D2? You didn't need the autotune. Why is it that you put it there? You know how to sing. You could perform this track perfectly well. I've seen you sing live. I don't have a problem with autotune at all. I just don't have it. But when you put it to correct your vocals when they don't need to be corrected, why? Other than that, once again, this album doesn't have that many things to say about it. It's really simple, it's catchy, it's enjoyable. I do believe that, the biggest sin this album commits, other than the vocal processing, is the fact that it's not a memorable album. There are albums that I haven't heard in months, bro. For example, To Be Kind by the Swans. I haven't heard that album ever since 2021, and I still remember many parts of this 2-hour album. Instead, with this album, it's hard for me to remember a single melody, even though I've heard it 5 times today. But if I had to say my opinion about this album, I think it's a good album. I think it's enjoyable. I think it's a nice listen. I think it's a really casual listen. I don't think this is a project that I could call, an overwhelming project or a groundbreaking project. But I don't think that's the point. I think this is a really laid back and just whatever project that he released, because he's, I think that he's evolving right now. And it's not because I don't like pop music or synth pop music, modern synth pop music. I actually loved one of my favorite albums this year is Harry Styles' Harry's House. That is a good example of how far can you go in terms of pop music and how to stay in the lane of mainstream pop without going into art pop or glitch pop or any of these other subgenres, and still make an album that's interesting, original, make your own sound inside the genre. I think that Harry is a great example of that. And this album is the example of just playing it safe, coming up with a few good melodies, put a few drums behind it, put some synths, put a lot of autotune in it, and there you have a song. I don't have a problem with that formula. It takes talent to do that. I couldn't do it, but I don't think that it's all that special. It meant nothing to me. It's just an album that I enjoyed because it had nice melodies in it. But that's pretty much, my opinion on this album. There are some questionable moments musically, apart from the vocal processing and, the lyrics. For example, that rock part on Charlie Be Quiet, it just doesn't mix well, doesn't it? There's this YouTuber, shout out to her. I really like, her reaction to this album. Really interesting video. I don't really remember the channel's name. Fuck, I think I've lost the video. But there was a part where she said that, a song on this album, I don't remember which one, reminded her of Candle in the Wind by Elton John. I don't really know which track was it that reminded you of Candle in the Wind by Elton John, but actually I don't see the resemblance. Actually, I don't think I have a single song in Charlie Puth's entire discography that I can resemble to any Elton John song. So I'm gonna say it again. I think that this was a good, a step in the right direction for Charlie Puth. I think that, this is one step in terms of his evolution as an artist. I do believe that he has to be a little bit more consistent in releasing music, because Voicenotes was in 2018. 4 years have passed and we haven't received another album until now. And if we're going to take little steps in terms of upgrading your music and the quality of your releases, how about dropping an album next year, see where you're going, what roads are you going to take after this album. So really excited to see what he will do in a future, but I cannot really be excited or call this a good album in terms of comparing it to other releases that have gone out this year. I'm giving this album a 5. That is it for today's video, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the video that I upload. But yeah, guys, what do you think about this album? Did you like it? Did you not? Let me know your reasons down below and I'll make sure to check them out. With that being said, once again, I hope you enjoyed and I hope I can see you soon in a new video. But until then, bye.